Imagine spending, a full decade of your life just mastering these invisible rules of how to build the perfect digital experience.
Oh, like the rules of standard web design.
Right, exactly. You learn exactly how to make a website completely frictionless, like how to guide a user from the home page directly to the checkout screen without them ever having to, stop or think or feel confused.
Yeah, the classic corporate funnel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You learn how to build this ultimate, efficient, streamlined machine, and then you take all of that knowledge, all those years of practice, and you use it to build a system that intentionally frustrates you.
Which is just wild.
It is. You build something that gets you lost and basically shatters every single one of those foundational rules.
It's honestly the ultimate act of creative rebellion.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn the rules of the grid just so you can completely blow the grid up.
Right. And so welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a really fascinating digital and physical ecosystem today.
And this one is, it's pretty unique.
Very unique. It treats human breakdown not as like a bug to be fixed, but as the main feature. It's a platform called FizzStory EXP.
Yeah, FizzStory EXP.
And our sources today for this deep dive are a really eclectic stack. I mean, we aren't looking at a traditional white paper or, a standard news article.
No, not at all. It's much more raw than that.
Right. We are working from this patchwork of website excerpts, conceptual manifestos, a professional LinkedIn profile, actually.
Which is so interesting to include in an art piece, basically.
Yeah, and archival Instagram posts from the platform's creator, who is a designer named Lou Riordan.
Which is incredibly fitting, really, because the platform itself is a patchwork. It's essentially an archive of lived experience.
Exactly. And the mission for our deep dive today is to really pull apart the architecture of FizzStory EXP and understand the neurodivergent engine that's running underneath it all.
Right, the core operating system, so to speak.
Yeah. We are going to explore how something called dyslexic thinking, which, by the way, Lou Riordan actually lists as a top professional skill, how that completely shapes the structure of this ecosystem.
And that's such a crucial point. It's not just a label, it's the actual architectural foundation.
We want to see how that very specific way of processing information turns, literal trash into profound stories, and how it challenges the way all of us, whether we're neurodivergent or not, interact with the systems in our daily lives.
And I think we really should establish the tone of this project right out of the gate so you, the listener, know what kind of space we're entering.
Oh, definitely. There's a very specific vibe.
Right. Across almost every piece of source material we reviewed, there is this recurring phrase. It's written in all caps, almost like a battle cry, honestly.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it says messy, bold, human.
I love that phrase so much because it completely primes you for what you're about to look at.
It really does. It sets expectations immediately.
Because if you open a standard corporate portfolio, right, the buzzwords are always things like synergy or efficiency or streamline.
Oh, yeah. Seamless integration, all of that.
Right. They want to assure you that there will be absolutely no friction. But Lou Riordan puts this sign on the front door warning you that there will be a mess.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, you are going to have to actually engage with this.
Exactly. So let's look at the actual blueprint of FizzStory EXP. Like, how is this thing actually put together?
Well, to understand the blueprint, we really need to unpack what we mean when we talk about dyslexic thinking in a structural sense.
Oh, yeah, let's get into that. Because I think people hear dyslexia and they immediately think of, like, spelling tests in third grade.
Right, exactly. For decades, traditional education systems and, frankly, corporate environments, they framed dyslexia almost exclusively as a deficit.
Like it was just a broken piece of software.
Exactly. It was defined simply as this inability to read or process linear text efficiently. But cognitive science and neurodiversity advocates have completely reframed this over the last several years.
Because it's not a deficit, it's just a different operating system.
Yes. Dyslexic processing is fundamentally different. It tends to excel at spatial reasoning, at holistic problem solving, and recognizing incredibly complex interconnected patterns.
So instead of looking at a problem as like a step-by-step staircase, they are looking at this massive interconnected web.
Yeah. Think about how you might navigate a city.
Right.
The linear thinker usually wants a grid system.
Right, like numbered streets and avenues. Very logical.
Exactly. They follow the step-by-step directions, like walk 3 blocks north, turn left at 5th Avenue. It's a sequence.
Okay.
But a dyslexic thinker might navigate spatially and experientially. They often don't care about the street names at all.
Oh, that's interesting. So how do they get around?
They navigate by landmarks, like they remember the smell of a specific bakery on the corner or the way the afternoon light hits a certain glass building.
Oh, wow. So it's heavily sensory.
Extremely. They see the whole environment holistically. And FizStory EXP is basically a digital manifestation of that exact holistic spatial mind.
Which honestly explains why the navigation of the site is so completely foreign compared to what we're used to.
It is jarring at first, yeah.
Because a normal website has a drop-down menu at the top. You know, home, about us,
Yeah.
services, contact. It's this very polite, linear hallway.
A very predictable hallway.
Right. But FizStory EXP doesn't have that hallway at all. It divides its entire universe into 4 conceptual, lived categories.
And those categories are in brackets, right?
Yes, exactly. It's bracket play, bracket work, bracket life, and bracket lab.
And the fascinating thing is, underneath those 4 pillars, you don't find traditional chronological archives. You don't click 2023 projects.
No, not at all.
Instead, you find this sprawling associative web of tags. These massive hashtags like hashtag radart, hashtag SAYWHA, hashtag story, and hashtag FidSystem.
And the instructions on the site literally tell you to, quote, scroll through these nonlinear scrolly stories.
Yeah, it's commanding you to explore, not just consume.
It's encouraging you to jump from something called a gift shop to something described as brutal action design.
Yeah, the terminology is intense.
It really is. Let's pause on those terms for a second because the jargon here is heavy. What does brutal action design actually mean in the context of building a website?
Well, based on the visual and structural descriptions in our sources, brutal action design is pulling from the physical concept of brutalist architecture.
Oh, okay, like those massive concrete buildings from the 70s.
Exactly. Think of a massive concrete structure where the architects deliberately didn't bother to cover the rebar or paint the walls.
They just leave it all exposed.
Right. They leave the raw structural materials visible. So in digital design, doing that means stripping away the glossy, polite, user-friendly veneer.
Like stripping away the drop shadows and the smooth animations.
Yes. It forces the user to confront the raw information. You aren't being gently, seamlessly guided to a Buy Now button.
You are being dropped into a raw interface where you have to actively decipher how things connect.
Exactly. And what about the gifts shop you mentioned?
Yeah, that one caught my eye too. If you look at the text, notice the capitalization there. It's GIFTS.
Ah, with a lowercase t.
Yeah, it's a play on words. It suggests it isn't a traditional e-commerce store where you, I don't know, buy a branded t-shirt or a coffee mug.
Right. It's not merch.
No, it's an exchange of digital artifacts, of ideas, of gifts in a much broader, more communal sense, and also literally gifs, like the image format.
That is so clever. So the whole site is structured to encourage this associative linking. You pull on one thread and you end up in a completely different emotional space.
That's the perfect way to describe it. Like, look at the specific subsections under the life category.
Oh, yeah. These are fascinating.
The tags aren't based on file types. It's not like videos or photos, and they are based on the year they were made.
What are they?
The tags are literally, say RD, say WRK, say IRLO, say CRY, say FUN, say SMRT, and say IDK.
Say IDK? Say I don't know.
Yeah.
That is incredibly powerful for a database architecture. Think about that for a second. Human emotion and states of absolute vulnerability are being used as the primary filing system.
It's wild. You are organizing data based on the human reaction it provoked at the exact moment of its creation.
Right. I mean, I am trying to imagine pitching that to a corporate IT department.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? Hey guys, instead of organizing our quarterly financial reports by date, let's organize them by whether they made us want to cry or say, I don't know.
They would literally laugh you out of the room. Security would escort you out.
Totally. But in a system built specifically for a dyslexic, neurodivergent mind, an emotional spatial map makes way, way more sense than a chronological list.
It absolutely does. Because human memory is fundamentally associative and emotional, it's not chronological. I mean, we remember how a moment felt far better than we remember the exact date on the calendar.
So true. Okay, so if this platform is this giant, nonlinear, emotion-driven map, what are we actually mapping?
What's the actual content?
Exactly. What is stored inside these categories? If we look at the source text, the physical core of this project seems to be a massive collection of artifacts filed under that tag, #RightHeart.
Yeah, and this is where the digital architecture collides with the physical world in a really visceral, gritty way.
The sources trace the origins of #RightHeart back to a highly specific era in the creator's life. The text mentions Social unrest, personal upheaval, and profound transformation during 2017 to 2018.
A very heavy period.
Very heavy. The text describes a period that scattered marks, moments, and madness across PHX and NYC, so Phoenix and New York City.
And it's defined in the sources as a process, a practice of documenting, tagging, and collecting what Lou refers to as ordinary things.
Ordinary things.
Yeah, but spelled T-I-N-G-S. It was essentially a coping mechanism to navigate uncharted terrain, massive personal breakdowns, and eventual breakthroughs.
Wait, hold on. We really need to look at the actual physical examples from the text here, because this is where I think a lot of people might get tripped up.
It can be a bit abstract until you see the items.
Exactly. The first example of these artifacts in our source stack is a pair of boots. They call them the buck boots.
Right. A pair of field-worn Timberland Pro buckskin boots.
And the sources say these boots were acquired through Amazon jobs on the New York part of the Homeland Tour of 2021.
That phrasing alone carries so much weight. Homeless to homeland.
It really does. And these boots are heavily tagged, like covered with oil paint, acrylic paint, and spray paint.
They aren't just shoes anymore.
No, the site logs them as utilitarian artifacts, tracking miles of the, quote, bottomed out / dropout expuge and the transition into a rebirth.
But the logging itself is what's really wild to me.
Oh, the precision of it.
Yes. It lists dates and military times. Like, it literally says, at 15.01, hashtag 2133-0330, hashtag IRL.
Right, so March 30th, 2023, at 3:01 p.m. in real life.
Exactly. And the second example is even more extreme in terms of the mundane nature of the object. It's called Bday Treats.
Okay, yeah.
And it's described as a snaky cup. Based on the context and the images, this is a literal, disposable, compostable coffee cup.
Like from a cafe.
Yes. But it has been heavily tagged with permanent marker, and again, it has these hyper-specific timestamps.
It says got/on, 2026-0428 at 15.45, tag/on, 2026-0428 at 16.10.
And its status is listed as dropped or bubbling. The precision is staggering.
Okay, I have to be the skeptic for a minute here.
Oh, for it.
If you or I were walking down the street in New York and saw a muddy pair of boots covered in paint or a disposable coffee cup scribbled with Sharpie sitting on a ledge, we wouldn't think, yes, a profound utilitarian artifact.
No, you'd probably step over it.
Right. We would think, that's trash. Someone left their garbage here. So how is meticulously logging the exact minute you wrote on a disposable cup not just an exercise in hoarding garbage? Like, what is the actual tangible value here?
That is the perfect question. And that friction you are feeling right now, that instinct to dismiss it as trash, is exactly what the project is challenging.
Okay. How so?
Because you are looking at a coffee cup through the lens of a highly functioning, linear, comfortable existence.
Fair enough.
To understand why that cup matters so deeply, you have to look through the lens of trauma and the bottomed-out dropout experience that the text specifically mentions.
The homeless to home transition we talked about.
Exactly. Think about it. When an individual is in a state of profound upheaval, perhaps they're navigating systemic marginalization, severe burnout, or actual housing insecurity, traditional forms of record-keeping completely evaporate.
That's true. You lose your paper trail.
Right. You don't have a neat filing cabinet for your achievements. You don't have a tidy digital calendar proving where you were on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Your existence becomes chaotic, and society largely treats you as invisible.
You are just trying to survive the next hour. You aren't updating your LinkedIn.
Right. So in that state, how do you prove that you exist? How do you anchor yourself in a world that is spinning completely out of control?
Oh.
When you combine dyslexic thinking, which inherently assigns value to spatial and physical reality differently, with trauma recovery, the result is this incredibly intense attachment of meaning to mundane objects.
Because the objects are the only constant?
Yes. The coffee cup isn't a vessel for a beverage anymore. Marking it with a Sharpie and logging the exact minute 16.10 is a way of taking control of a narrative that has been violently stripped from you.
It's physical evidence of survival.
Yes, the timestamp isn't just administrative data entry, it is a heartbeat.
A heartbeat.
It is a declaration that says, I was here in this physical space at 4:10 p.m. and I survived this minute. When you view it that way, logging the cup isn't hoarding. It is a radical act of self-preservation.
It is a heartbeat. Wow. That completely changes how I view that timestamp.
It shifts the whole paradigm.
It really does. It's not administrative. It's existential. The cup is just the canvas for the proof of life.
Exactly.
And this bridges into something so crucial about Phys Story EXP. Making meaning out of trash isn't just an eccentric art project for the sake of being weird. It is a vital survival mechanism.
Necessary one.
And that survival mechanism is the absolute foundation of Lou Riordan's core professional philosophy, which is called recovery design.
Yes, recovery design. And if we pull from the LinkedIn profile in our stack, we get a really illuminating look at the career trajectory that led to this philosophy.
What does the profile say?
It notes that after spending a decade working in tech and design, Lou made a deliberate ideological shift. The exact quote from the profile is that they shifted from systems built for profit to systems built for people.
Systems built for people.
Yeah.
And the stated goal of this recovery design is creating sustainable, inclusive spaces that help people and ideas, quote, rebuild without burning out.
We really need to contextualize what corporate systems built for profit actually look like, because it explains why recovery design is so deeply necessary.
Yeah, let's contrast them.
We live in an economic reality that is frankly obsessed with frictionless productivity. Corporate architecture demands that a human being operates like a piece of software.
Right. You input effort, you output profit.
And the line on the graph must always go up, quarter after quarter.
And if you don't go up or if you slow down, you are malfunctioning.
Exactly. But human beings are not linear algorithms.
Obviously not.
And that is especially true for neurodivergent thinkers or anyone navigating trauma, chronic illness, or just basic recovery from burnout. Humans break down.
We get tired. We get sick.
We have days where our output is literal zero. We require rest. Traditional profit-driven systems view that breakdown as a fatal error, a fireable offense.
Right.
Recovery design is a framework that actually expects the breakdown. It builds the entire system around the inevitability of human frailty.
Which is such a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And we see this codified explicitly in the #PhysisSystem loop that's detailed in the lab section of the site.
Yes, the core protocol.
The core protocol of the entire platform is basically 6 words. It goes look, tag, ship, break, loop, loop, #repeat.
Look, tag, ship, break, loop, repeat.
I really want to focus on the inclusion of the word break in that cycle.
It's the most important word in the sequence.
Because in any other tech environment, a break is a crisis.
Yeah.
You call IT, the server's down, the employee is burned out and needs to be replaced.
It's a failure state.
Exactly. But here, it is a scheduled, expected step in the process.
It's revolutionary in its empathy, really. Think about how it flows. You examine the idea or the trauma, that's the look. You give it a name or categorize it, that's the tag. You put it out into the world, you publish it, that's SAYWHA.
And then, inevitably, you experience exhaustion,
Yeah.
you hit a wall, the idea fails. That is the break.
Wow.
In a corporate system, that's where you get fired or put on a performance improvement plan or you just quit. In recovery design, the system catches you and says, okay, you broke, that's normal, that's part of it. Now, LOP, start over.
It honors the nonlinear reality of healing.
It really does.
And it mirrors the dyslexic mind, too. It's cyclical. It's not a straight line marching toward an endless quarterly profit goal. It's a circle.
This brings up the concept of inclusive innovation, which is also mentioned on Lou's LinkedIn. It poses a massive critique of the modern tech industry.
In what way?
It suggests that the tech world actively and systematically excludes neurodivergent thinkers by forcing them into those linear, relentless productivity models we just talked about.
Because they literally aren't built for that kind of brain. Right. So FizStory EXP is essentially a living, breathing prototype of an alternative. It says, look, we can build a highly complex, functioning digital ecosystem that is chaotic, that centers raw human emotion, that expects you to fail and break, and it still works.
It's basically a proof of concept for a kinder internet.
That's a great way to put it.
But FizStory EXP doesn't just exist on a server somewhere. It interacts with the real world physically. And to see how radical this system is, we have to look at how it handles the most rigidly structured, unforgiving linear system ever invented by humanity.
Oh, you mean currency?
Yes, money. This is where the project steps off the screen and directly onto the pavement. Let's look at the #PRTP project.
Yeah, that's capital PR, the euro symbol, TIP $, pre-tips.
Exactly. And this is filed under the Play section of the site. The sources include an image and a detailed log of something called a #pre-tips in motion.
And what exactly are we looking at in this image?
The image is of a crinkled €5 note, but it has been treated exactly like the boots in the coffee cup.
Heavily tagged.
Yes. It is heavily tagged with marker. The creator's handle, specific dates and hashtags are scrawled right across the face of the bill.
Defacing it, basically.
Right. And the text logs it as dropped in Limerick, Ireland on March 11th, 2025.
The site describes the objective of this project as tagged cache in motion through anticipation, encounter, and loop.
Now, if I saw someone writing hashtags all over a €5 bill and deliberately dropping it on a sidewalk in Limerick, I would have questions.
Naturally.
Usually, defacing currency is viewed as destroying its value. In a lot of places, it's literally illegal. You are vandalizing the very mechanism of society.
It's taboo.
Right. And the stated goal here is an encounter. But my pushback is, does writing on a bill actually create a meaningful human encounter, or is it just a chaotic stunt to get attention?
Well, to understand the genius of this, you have to think about what a €5 note actually is at its core.
Okay.
Money is the ultimate linear algorithm. It is a standardized unit of value that is entirely stripped of human context.
What do you mean by stripped of context?
Well, if you buy a coffee with a €5 note, the barista doesn't care if that note was previously in the pocket of a billionaire or a person sleeping on the street.
Right, €5 is €5.
Exactly. Its history is erased. It is just worth €5. It is a cold mathematical utility. It's entirely impersonal by design.
Because it has to be to function.
Precisely. But by treating this bill with the chaotic, dyslexic, deeply human tagging system of FizzStory EXP, Lou is essentially hacking that transaction.
Oh, wow.
They are taking a sterile commodity and turning it into a unique, localized artifact. They are forcing serendipity into a rigid financial system.
Because whoever finds that crinkled tagged bill on the street in Limerick isn't just finding a free €5 anymore.
No, they're finding a puzzle.
They're stumbling into a narrative. They have to stop and wonder, what do these tags mean? Who was here? What is hashtag pre-tips?
They're being invited into the loop. The anticipation is Lou dropping it and waiting. The encounter is the stranger finding it.
And the site uses this phrase, stay fizzy.
Stay fizzy.
Yeah. It sounds like a soda commercial at first, but when you put it in the context of recovery design and dropping money on the street, it takes on a lot of weight.
It really does, because adulthood, survival, and capitalism are incredibly heavy, stressful things. Money is the source of profound anxiety for most of the world.
Absolutely.
So injecting play, literal, chaotic play into the world of money is a radical act. It is a reminder that the rigid rules of the economy are just constructs.
Or made up.
Yeah, you are allowed to be messy within them. You are allowed to hack them and create moments of surprise for a total stranger.
It's basically an invitation to stop functioning like a consumer for 3 seconds and function like a curious human being.
Exactly. Stay fizzy.
I love that. Now, obviously, managing this massive interconnected web of tagged boots, dropped cash in Ireland, and nonlinear digital stories requires immense infrastructure.
It's a huge database.
Right. You can't just throw thousands of emotional tags into a void and hope it forms a cohesive website. There has to be a backend.
Someone has to organize the files.
Right. But how does a platform that aggressively celebrates the messy human experience incorporate the most sterile, logic-driven technology on the planet?
Artificial intelligence.
Yes, I'm talking about AI. This is one of the most fascinating tensions in the entire source stack.
It really is, because it feels like a contradiction at first.
Totally. If we navigate over to the lab section of the platform, we see the engine room. The lab houses the research plus infrastructure, what they call the method to the madness.
And it explicitly relies on AI agents.
It does. The text mentions DigiSliceX call ACOGs. And it lists heavy-hitting tools. We're talking ChatGPT, Loma, NotebookLM, Gemini.
The big ones.
But it uses a very specific phrase to describe them. It calls these AI models silicon lab hands.
Silicon lab hands. The framing there is masterful, honestly.
Why do you say that?
Because right now, in the broader cultural conversation, there is a massive existential terror about AI.
Oh, yeah. People are panicking.
Yeah. Writers, designers, and creators are terrified that AI is going to replace human creativity, that it's going to automate the soul out of art.
Make everything bland and generic.
Right. But FizzStory EXP establishes an incredibly strict boundary for how AI is actually used in this ecosystem.
Yeah, the source text says, human stays witness, editor and meaning maker, authors, or replacements. All Fortune 500 tellers.
No Fortune 500 tellers. That perfectly aligns with the rejection of systems built solely for corporate profit.
But we need to look at the mechanics here. How does a silicon lab hand actually function in a dyslexic ecosystem, like practically speaking?
Well, think about the alternative. If you're feeding all your raw, trauma-informed journal entries and photos of tagged artifacts into ChatGPT without boundaries,
Isn't there a massive risk that the AI just sanitizes it Doesn't it just turn the messy human reality into polite corporate bullet points?
That would absolutely happen if you asked the AI to be the author. But Liu is using AI specifically as an assistive cognition system.
An assistive cognition system.
Yes. Let's go back to our cognitive science discussion earlier. Dyslexic minds are often brilliant at synthesizing massive, disparate concepts, like seeing how the tagged boots connect emotionally to the €5 note.
They see the big spatial picture.
Exactly. But the rote, linear, administrative task of digitally archiving, cross-referencing, and mapping those hundreds of tags.
That's exhausting.
It is. That kind of sequential data entry can be cognitively draining for a dyslexic brain. It's the boring linear paperwork.
Oh, I see.
So FizStory EXP offloads the linear paperwork to the machines. The AI acts as the invisible infrastructure.
It's just the filing clerk.
Yes. It sorts the massive web of data, maps the connections, and manages the database architecture. It handles the rigid spreadsheet work.
So by outsourcing the rigid tasks to the Silicon Lab hands, the human is freed up to do what only a human can do.
Which is to be the messy, bold meaning maker.
That is brilliant.
The AI doesn't write the story. It doesn't decide why the coffee cup is important. It just holds the pen and organizes the files while the human processes the trauma.
The AI is essentially a prosthetic for the linear tasks, allowing the neurodivergent superpower to remain entirely in the driver's seat.
That's exactly it.
It is such a brilliant subversion of how corporations usually use AI. I mean, corporations use AI to replace human output to save money. Liu is using AI to protect human output from administrative burnout.
It is the ultimate fusion of high-tech infrastructure supporting deeply vulnerable physical art.
So we now have a grasp on the sheer scale of this thing. It is a complex, AI-assisted, highly tagged, dyslexic, nonlinear space.
It's massive.
But this brings me to a really big question of usability. If I, as an everyday user, log on to FizStory EXP right now, how do I navigate it?
It sounds completely overwhelming.
It does. The cognitive load required to understand this system seems massive, which brings us to an incredible paradox buried deep in the creator's past.
Inside that archival Instagram post we mentioned at the start of the deep dive.
Yes, this is truly the key to unlocking the entire philosophy of the platform. We have an image from April 28, 2015.
Over a decade ago.
It's a casual first-person shot. It shows a person's legs. They're wearing these patterned leggings.
Yeah.
And resting in their lap is a very specific, very famous book in the tech world.
Oh, yes. Steve Krug's book.
Right. It's Don't Make Me Think, a common-sense approach to web usability. And the caption includes tags like #ups, #usability, and #general assembly.
To really understand the profound irony and the poetry of this image, we have to talk about UX history for a second.
Right. UX meaning user experience.
Yes. And Steve Krug's Don't Make Me Think is not just a book. It is the absolute... This is right there in the title. Krug argued that a website should be entirely self-evident. It should be totally frictionless.
Like sliding down a slide.
Exactly. A user should never, ever have to stop and consciously think about where to click next or what a button does. The cognitive effort required to use a site should be absolute zero.
It is the foundational blueprint for the smooth, corporate profit-driven internet that we interact with hundreds of times a day.
It's everywhere.
When you open a shopping app and check out in 2 seconds without thinking, you are living in Steve Krug's world.
Yes. The philosophy is that friction kills engagement and lost engagement kills profit. So you smooth out every single edge, you make the menus obvious, you make the paths linear.
Which makes sense if you're selling shoes.
Right. Yet here we have Lou Riordan in 2015 diligently studying this exact book. And a decade later, what does Lou build?
FizStory EXP.
A site that is aggressively, intentionally chaotic. A site that is highly fragmented.
This is the polar opposite.
It is. It relies on brutal action design and demands deep, active cognitive engagement from the user. It literally has a core protocol that commands you to look and to break.
It is the exact opposite of Don't Make Me Think. It's almost like the unwritten subtitle of FizStory EXP is, please make me think, make me feel, make me pause.
Think about the progression of a jazz musician.
Okay, I like this analogy.
A true master of jazz doesn't just pick up a trumpet on day one and start blowing random chaotic notes.
Right, that would just be noise.
Exactly. They spend years, sometimes decades, studying the rigid scales, the classical theory, the strict rules of tempo and harmony. They master the structure completely.
They learn the rules.
Yes. And they do that so they know exactly how and when to break the rules. They learn the scales so they can play the wrong notes beautifully, creating something entirely new and emotionally resonant.
That is the perfect way to look at this. Lou spent 10 years mastering the scales of corporate, frictionless UX design.
Studying the Bible.
Right. They learned exactly how to build the perfect sterile interface.
Yeah.
And then they used that mastery to dismantle the structure from the inside out.
They knew exactly which load-bearing walls to knock down.
They knew exactly which rules of usability to break to force the user out of their consumer coma and into an active human encounter.
It's brilliant. Don't Make Me Think is the anthem of the frictionless web where you are nothing but a wallet.
Wow.
But Messy, Bold, Human is the anthem of recovery design, where you are a vital participant in the ecosystem.
Friction is not a bug in FizzStory EXP. Friction is the feature.
The site requires you to get a little bit lost.
Because that is exactly how dyslexic nonlinear exploration works best. It requires the friction of not knowing exactly where you are to force you to look closely at the environment.
Right, it forces you to look at the landmarks, to discover the meaning behind the #RedArt tags, to figure out why a pair of boots and a coffee cup are sharing space with a tag Euro note.
It demands your presence. It demands that you wake up.
It really does.
Okay, let's take a breath and step back to look at the massive picture we've painted today. We've taken a deep dive into the messy, bold, and brilliantly human world of FizzStory EXP.
It's been quite a journey.
We've seen how dyslexic thinking isn't just a neurodivergent trait on a resume, right?
Yeah.
It is the actual structural superpower behind an entire digital architecture.
It replaces the linear grid with a deeply emotional spatial map.
We explored how the physical artifacts, the #RedArt, turn the mundane remnants of trauma and burnout into meticulously logged evidence of survival.
Because the timestamp on a disposable cup isn't just data, it's a heartbeat proving you exist.
We discussed the radical empathy of recovery design, how it prioritizes people over profit by building systems that expect, forgive, and loop our inevitable human breakdowns.
We saw how a tagged €5 note in Ireland hacks the ultimate linear system of money to force serendipity and play.
And we saw how artificial intelligence is kept on a very tight leash, used merely as a silicon lab hand to handle the rigid paperwork so the human can remain the meaning maker.
And of course, we saw the beautiful 10-year evolution of a designer who studied the rigid rules of traditional frictionless UX design just so they could intentionally break the web to make it more alive.
And as we wrap up, we want to bring this entirely back to you, the listener. Because whether you are navigating your own messy spreadsheets at work or trying to organize a chaotic family schedule, or maybe you're managing a team or dealing with your own personal burnout or trauma recovery, you are interacting with systems every single day.
You are operating within an architecture right now, and the question FizzStory EXP forces us to ask is, do the systems you use serve your humanity, or do they just serve your productivity?
Right. If dyslexic thinking and recovery design can take literal street trash and elevate it to a meaningful artifact of survival.
And if it can turn a chaotic, rule-breaking website into a living, breathing ecosystem,
What rigid, frictionless structures in your own life are actually holding you back?
what efficiency are you clinging to that is killing your ability to play, to break down, and to truly recover?
We are conditioned to want the clean, linear path, the obvious menu, the drop-down answer. But life isn't linear. Are you forcing your mind to operate like a corporate machine, searching for a clean line that simply does not exist? Or are you willing to let your environment, your systems in your life, reflect your own messy, bold human reality?